Totally Football Show today. League Cup. Werner, you're going to see that again. Timo scores goal as Spurs beat Man City. Palace beats Villa. The Prince Harry living arrangements bitter discovery Classico. And Man United, 11 players minus Ten Hag equals 5 goals versus Leicester. We round up all the midweek news. More in Mio, get the latest on Ruben. Then it's on to the weekend with Newcastle, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, and more. And another of those, the most one-sided fixture in English footballs. It's all coming up in this, the Totally Football Show. Thursday, the 31st of October. Listener, is that a significant date?
Don't know.
Duncan Alexander's here.
Hi.
Hi, Duncan. Also, Adrian Clarke.
Hello.
All right, Adrian. And Liam Tharme.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Liam. It's Halloween, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Spooky.
Yeah. Anyone else getting dragged out later on today?
I will be dragged out.
No.
Yeah. No. You steadfastly against.
Not steadfastly against. I'm just not going to go out.
Nice. All right. Plenty of big names did go out last night in that League Cup because, of course, we had a busy round, Liam, of last 16 action.
Yeah, and the old Amazon Prime style staggering of games, which threw me because it was then on Sky. So I thought it was the old 7:30, 8:15.
Were you able to sample the best of multiple games as a result?
Yeah, tried to watch a bit, and then you get to the problem where a second half will be kick off in one as a first half's kicking off in another. So that was Brighton, Liverpool, and Spurs Man City last night. And then you convince yourself every time, you know, I'll try and watch both of them, and then you sort of get half an hour in and you go, I don't think I've consumed 50% of each of these. It's quite a task.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? What were the best bits that you did see? Timo Werner's goal? Was that the standout or Casemiro's outstanding?
That was a peach, wasn't it?
Whoa.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Timo Werner's goal was basically a repeat of the Wolves goal from the other week. So is that a flaw in City's defence that's going to be
interesting point. Yeah. Interesting point. City's first defeat of the season now. Bruno Fernandes got a brace. His second goal was delightful. Him rounding the keeper in the manner that we're told players just don't do anymore. Nwaneri for Arsenal.
Yep.
Fantastic. And how about, is it Jedi Gassama? What a name. The equaliser for Sheffield Wednesday against Brentford. You see, it was an absolute screamer in a midweek that was stock full of big goals from distance.
Going around the keeper and scoring from distance. I thought this wasn't allowed anymore.
You've banned it, Duncan.
Yeah. Is it because it's the League Cup?
Hey, a Milk Cup you can do. It's just a retro fun fest, but or maybe people are just focusing on the wrong things.
They're more relaxed, maybe. There's less pressure, so they just let rip from distance.
I would say Bruno's second goal was very much I'm quite relaxed with 4-2 up.
When he's just lashed it in, yeah.
I mean, not only does he round the keeper by rolling his studs over the ball, which is very kind of FIFA 20, he also just decides to not only smash it into net, but smash it so close to the near post that the margin for error was huge. But
tiny.
Yes, that one. Well, it's like flammable, inflammable. I think it's, you know.
It's almost as if he didn't care.
Yeah.
What a result for Man United, who of course had freshly ditched Ten Hag and brought in or promoted his assistant Ruud van Nistelrooy and were rewarded with a 5-2 victory. Duncan Alexander tweeting, you have to hope Erik Ten Hag doesn't have goal alert set up on his phone.
He probably doesn't, to be fair, because he was the manager.
He didn't need them.
He used to get to go to most of the games.
Yeah, that's true. Colin Miller, meanwhile, pointing out that Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho managed 298 matches between them of Manchester United. Only twice did their teams score 5 or more goals in a match. Solskjaer and Van Nistelrooy both managed it in each of their first matches in charge. Extraordinary. What does it all mean? I don't know. We'll talk more about Man United, of course, later on. Laurie Whitwell will be joining us with the latest on their quest to appoint Ruben Amorim of Sporting Club do Portugal as their new manager. But they're going to be facing in the quarterfinals, which will be coming up in mid-December. We'll be facing Spurs, who, as you've heard, beat Manchester City 2-1. That is their 6th win in 8 meetings against Man City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Just extraordinary.
Yeah, it's an incredible record, isn't it? They're just really well suited to them. They're just a brilliant team on the break, aren't they, Tottenham? You know, they are electric and City were uncharacteristically open, really. I mean, you say uncharacteristically, that is their flaw, isn't it? You know, being vulnerable to counter-attacks. More and more teams seem to be creating against them in that way. So, and with other players getting injured, defensive players getting injured for City last night, and Savinho, you're starting to think, you know, are they a little bit susceptible maybe this weekend in the most one-sided fixture?
It's funny you say that, because when we talked about this before the show, I fancy Bournemouth against Man City, and producer Charlie said, do you know that it's the most one-sided fixture in English top flight football? I don't know where he got that from.
Former
Duncan.
quiz winner, no.
Yeah, no, but 20 meetings across all competitions, Bournemouth have never won, and they've lost the last 15.
Yeah, it's very un-City-like, wasn't it, last night? Because normally Pep will take every game seriously, and he will go for every trophy. We know that he wants the League Cup. He likes to start each season by winning that competition. But it was as if he was willing to sacrifice it this time around. You know, whether that's because he just knows that they're not in quite the shape that he wants them to be at the moment. He'd rather prioritise the future rather than the here.
I think the impact of the additional 2 Champions League games is starting to be felt a bit. And also, you know, with no Kyle Walker at right back, that makes them a lot more susceptible. That was their sort of get out of jail free card most of the time. And, you know, he might be the Ballon d'Or winner, but no Rodri is really kicking in as well. So I think all the teams near the top this season have got flaws. So theoretically, that should make for a fun title race.
Tottenham in the next round will be facing the other Manchester side, Man United, with, presumably at that point, although we'll hear from Laurie very, very shortly, Ruben Amorim in charge. Arsenal, who you saw, Adrian, beating Preston North End 3-0 at
3-0,
detail.
yeah.
They'll be taking on Crystal Palace, who had one of the shocks, I guess you could call it, of the midweek action, beating Aston Villa 2-1 away.
Good result for them, but yeah, it came at a cost, didn't it? With Eza going off
and
injured,
Wharton
and
as well.
Wharton. He's had problems for a while now.
Again.
Adam Wharton.
Yeah.
This groin injury, I don't think.
I mean, Oliver Gladstone said after the game that Wharton's probably okay, and it was that issue again, and he might be all right for the weekend. But you sort of think, well, if he has to go off mid-game, surely it's better to fix it than keep doing that. Eze looked like a hamstring, so that could be obviously anything from a couple of weeks to
8 years.
Yeah, so it's one of those. You know, it was a good result, but they've progressed to. You know, they play Arsenal in the quarterfinal.
A Pyrrhic victory, do you think?
It feels a little like that. Although
they needed it, didn't they? They needed a confidence boost. He had to put a strong team out. What sort of message would it have sent out if he hadn't? So I think they did the right thing, but it's come at a cost. Villa rested most of their big guns, didn't they?
I mean, Villa obviously not Wickham out in the previous round. What was the point? Genuinely. Thanks a lot.
I'll tell you what, Arsenal were good though. Arsenal were good against Preston. Really professional. It was, you know, when you sometimes turn up at these places, you think, you look at the first 10 minutes, do they fancy it? Are they interested in this game?
Are they overawed by playing the real Invincibles?
Yeah, that might have been a factor. But they weren't. They were really up for it.
For any non-historians out there, Duncan.
Preston North End 1888-89 won both the league and the FA Cup without losing a game, the actual Invincibles. A title revived for the Arsenal team of 03-04, who did lose a few cup games.
How many games in the league?
5, I think.
5 what?
5 defeats.
No, 5.
How many games did Preston play?
They would have played 22 in the league.
Okay.
It's not very many, is it?
I mean, it's
all right, Alex Ferguson.
Also, in those days, you didn't have modern sports science to aid you. They didn't know ice baths.
Exactly.
They were probably working down the mines
baths,
or something.
which were technically ice baths.
I don't know if they even did have baths. Maybe down the end of the garden.
Oh, they definitely had the old group bath.
The good thing, I mean, I don't want to focus too much on Preston 1888, but they did rotate their goalkeepers that season. They had a cup goalie and a league goalie.
Did they really?
I like to think there were some Preston supporters saying the game was gone, but we'll never know.
I think De Zerbi thought he'd coined that as a concept as well. Can't reinvent the wheel.
Ethan Nwaneri. Oh wow!
What a goal!
A great goal.
Generally,
a stunning performance. Like every time I see him play, he looks better. He looks more assured, more at home. This was a virtuoso performance. It was a 9.5 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. I think he misplaced one pass. Everything he did had a little bit of swagger about it. Lovely weight of pass. He was trying some Erdegaard little, one play passes in between players. He could have scored 3 or 4 goals. He hit the bar. His touch was ridiculous, and the goal was obviously sensational. The way he receives the ball and just bends it top corner was was top quality. I just think that this boy is special. He belongs in the class of Wilshere, of Cesc, in terms of real wonder kids. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he will be in Thomas Tuchel's England squad within the next year or two.
Will he be in Mikel Arteta's squad for the Newcastle trip?
He will. He won't play. He won't start.
No.
But he's good enough to start. There's no doubt about that. But he won't start in that game, I would imagine. But he is ready. In the way that Joe Bellingham was ready at such a young age, he is ready, in my opinion, to impact big games.
That's something I think Gareth Southgate spoke about with Kobbie Mainoo actually last season, where they were saying sort of, get him into the squad, is he kind of ready? And obviously, I think the perspective often kind of Bukayo Saka's kind of become the rule now, where really he's the exception of a kid that, a la Rashford sort of previously burst onto the scene, can be really, really good. Nwaneri's still playing up in the academy teams. He's playing for the 21s and doing really, really well. I think that there's always a big duty of care from the coaches, and I get that fans are frustrated and we want to see him more and play more, but cup games are perfect for that, being part of the first team, and training is obviously just because people can't see it, can't forget how sort of valuable that is. But I think you've got to look at how Barca have been in recent seasons, where they've kind of been forced to play more of their youth players, have kind of gone in the opposite trajectory really to Arsenal, who've there was a good interview Art de Roche did with Per Mertesacker this week, who's obviously involved in the academy at Arsenal, was saying that sort of the improvement from the first team has been so sort of quick, so fast, that the gap then from academy to first team grows even bigger, and it's really, really hard to make that step up. So it's not a case of players not necessarily being at the level, but you're saying there's not many clubs that have improved, not necessarily stratospherically, but that quickly. Then you go, it's harder to then compare to Chelsea, City, etc., etc. So yeah, his time will come. The job is, I think, now keeping him physically okay, and just making sure you don't break this kid, because he's a boy.
He looks strong. He looks sturdy. But look, don't forget, he come on against Liverpool, come on against Spurs. I think he came on against Manchester City as well. So, Arteta already trusts him. There's no issue there. His main problem is up against Martin Odegaard when he's fit. He's the skipper. He's going to play, isn't he?
Well, Arsenal anyway. Perhaps he'll be around for Arsenal's quarter-final clash with Palace in the Carabao Cup. Other quarter-final matches to look out for: Saints-Liverpool. Saints, who on Tuesday let one of those 2-goal leads slip against Stoke, but then clawed their way back to make it through 3-2. Liverpool, meanwhile, you saw most of their 3-2 win over Brighton, Liam.
Yeah, no, they were really good. Their left side was really quite fantastic. Gakpo ended up scoring a couple of times, kind of similar positions, but different finishes, and was sort of running that same sort of play in the first half. Oh. Yeah, his ball striking is off the charts. I mean, he was a winger in his sort of early days at PSV in the Netherlands. Seen it at World Cups and Euros now, haven't we? That he can kind of be a bit frustrating. I think it's a little bit sort of Szoboszlai-esque, where you go look at a highlight reel, can be really, really phenomenal, but the consistency kind of isn't always there. But I think, Lamptey didn't end up scoring, but sort of really struggled, because you go, physically, you might be able to match him for pace, but sort of size-wise, and I think it's on the second goal where he goes to sort of challenge for a duel, and kind of gets pushed out the way by the bigger guy. So, there was maybe some defensive questions again for Brighton. They got sort of the midfield got played through sort of quite regularly, but Liverpool look really, really good again. It's another win, and I think it's an important test on the knockout side now as well, where you're saying, you've got to be, you've only got 90 minutes to be good. You can't just sort of catch up as you can in the league, and that defeat against Forest now just feels increasingly like a real sort of one-off blip, rather than sort of being evidence of any real systematic or style issues.
I see. Lamptey and Brighton, no doubt, pleased to see the back at Liverpool. They won't be relishing meeting them again. What's that? This weekend? This weekend back at Anfield. This one was at the Amex.
Yeah, so got to go and face them again. I always think that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know about the other guys. I find it quite icky, just a team playing each other twice. At least it's not at the same.
Fully agree. I really
bad for Liverpool though.
Why?
I'd say it's worse for Liverpool, because Brighton have had a shot at sort of getting to understand what they're about, and I think it's like you've had a practice go at it before the real thing at Anfield at the weekend. So I think that's an interesting game.
Okay. The other. Sorry. No, you go ahead, Duncan.
Couple of good saves from Vladislav Yaros in goal for Liverpool.
Yeah, great tip onto the post for one of the headers,
and a one-on-one as well. So
from Lamptey actually when he raced through. So
it's just strange not seeing Alisson or Kelleher in goal for Liverpool. My eyebrow raised, and then went down.
Very quickly on Gakpo, because when you see him score goals like that, he looks so good.
Yeah.
And you think, why can't he just go up front?
No,
I know, because he is better off.
the way you receive it, the angle you play.
He is better off the left. I definitely
forward,
get that.
You're Jurgen Klopp. That was what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, he was great away at Milan from the left as well. That is his position. Obviously, they have Luis Diaz.
Built like a conventional 9 in English terms, right? A big guy, physical. But when you watch him, I don't actually think he's that kind of good aerially. He's kind of almost like it's like when a puppy grows to a sort of full-size dog, and they still think they're a puppy in the way they move. And
I see.
I don't know how I've landed this as a point of comparison.
No, but that's
just sort of looks how we might consider a sort of striker to. But I think he's quick, agile.
You could say he's poor up front.
The other quarter-final in the Carabao Cup come December, we'll see the Bees take on the Magpies. Brentford, who drew 1-1 with Sheffield Wednesday, but went through on penalties, thanks to some resolute stuff from Flecken, will take on Newcastle, who beat a somewhat understrength Chelsea 2-0. Chelsea rested Cole Palmer, for example. As you say, many big clubs not putting out the big names for a competition that hasn't quite reached
you
yet,
say that, but compared to what it used to be like, when I saw the Arsenal team, you're like, Timber played. I was like, came off injured at the weekend, and it's quite a key player. So you go back sort of 10 years, and the big clubs would basically just put out youth teams in those competitions.
Well, I mean, that Brighton-Liverpool game, we say they're going to play each other again, but they'll be essentially two different teams. Brighton rested 9 players on Wednesday, and Liverpool 8. So yeah, there you go. Extraordinary. We'll catch up on some more of those stories as we run through what awaits us on Premier League Match Day 10. And we'll start that next. Match Day 10 of this Premier League season. We're already more than a quarter of the way through this campaign.
Our friend Mark Carey's got a piece out in Athletic today basically proving that it's done. Premier League's done. There's not much movement after 10 games. So,
is that right?
Yeah, pack up. Just have a quick glance in May.
Whatever you're going to do, you do it before the 10th round, essentially.
Well, there's not much variation after the 10th game.
Well, as you know, Manchester City are currently top of the table by 1 point from Liverpool, and then Arsenal now 5 points behind. Yikes. Saturday, the early game in this round of action, sees the Gunners travel off to Arsenal. I'm so sorry. I'll do that all again. Well, as you know, the table currently, after 9 matches, sees Man City top of the pile by 1 point from Liverpool. Arsenal are in third place, but 5 points back. This round of action starts with the Gunners in Saturday lunchtime's game away at Newcastle, who are 5 matches without a win in the league. At 3 o'clock, it's to the transistors for Liverpool, their next game with Brighton. Ipswich will be taking on Leicester at 3. The 2 promoted sides currently, Ipswich at the moment 5 points worse off than the Foxes. Bournemouth will be taking on Man City. That is, once again, the most one-sided fixture in English Football League history. We do seem to get these every week. They do seem to feature Man City regularly. But as we mentioned before, Bournemouth have lost all of their last 15 meetings with City in all competitions. Saints Everton is also at 3 o'clock, and so is Forest West Ham. Saturday tea time. Enjoy some Wolves Crystal Palace with your crumpets. Why not? 2 o'clock on Sunday. Spurs are up against Aston Villa. Could be an exciting game, that one. And then at 4:30, Man United host Chelsea. Ooh.
Would you have crumpets at 5:30 on a Saturday?
When would you have them?
Probably have them in the morning.
Would you?
Yeah. Be more
you feel they're a crumpet thing?
More of an 11s thing for me.
Okay, Liam, have you ever?
I've consumed crumpets before.
Yeah.
Yes.
What time? That's the key. That's the key thing here.
When I say crumpets, little knob of butter melting.
I think I can have them at any time.
There you go.
In the same way, I'd probably consume toast or other.
5 o'clock. What would you have at 5?
That's a good question. Probably a beer.
All right then.
Bloody Clarke.
Arsenal player in the 90s? Question, tick. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on. That's your... Oh, yeah, Man United hosting Chelsea, which is exciting. Do you know it's 11 and a half years since Chelsea last won at Old Trafford? So the last the last Man United manager to actually lose to Chelsea at home was Sir Alex. Wow. Monday night there's also Fulham Brentford. But we're not going to talk about that now. We're going to talk about Man United Chelsea. Huge week for the Red Devils, firing Ten Hag, getting that win over Leicester under Ruud van Nistelrooy, and then proceeding with these negotiations to bring in Ruben Amorim. To tell us where we're at with that and more, we're joined by the Athletics Man United correspondent, Laurie Whitwell. Laurie Whitwell joins us now. Laurie, it's a busy week for you. First off, what's the news on Ruben Amorim?
News is that we are told that a deal has been agreed between Manchester United and Sporting Lisbon for the release of Ruben Amorim. So he has this release clause in his contract, which is €10 million, but there's a little bit of conversation to be had around when he can come and whether he can bring as many staff as he likes. There's a few staff members that he's identified that he wants to bring with him. So we're told that there's been an agreement made so that he can stay with Sporting for the next 3 games, the 2 sort of really important ones being Manchester City in the Champions League and then Braga in the Portuguese League. So Sporting wanted him in place for that. And United have been, I guess, sympathetic to that request. And they've got Ruud van Nistelrooy in the building at the moment, so they're kind of happy that he can go on as interim for a couple of games more. But yes, that would mean that Amorim first match in charge of Manchester United is Ipswich away, November the 24th, and he can join sort of during the international break.
Sounds excellent. There's a certain amount of new manager fatigue, I think, among Man United supporters. What's the feeling? What's your feeling about this? Do you think this time it is finally going to be different for them, and why?
I'd love to say so. It just feels like this club can swallow up even the most exciting managers. I suppose it feels slightly different in the sense of he's 39, so he's got several years ahead of him to develop. You've got a new ownership group in place who have put what they believe are sort of expert football people in positions that you'd need them to be, and that hasn't been the case since the Glazers took over. You had Sir Alex Ferguson, David Gill doing it, and then when they left, there's been a bit of a vacuum of football expertise within the hierarchy. I do think that has changed now, so hopefully there's a synergy between the manager, head coach, and the guys that are doing the deals, because recruitment has to be a lot better. That's been the huge issue at United over the last sort of decade. So that's why there's a little bit of positivity around there. But Erik Ten Hag arrived with a great reputation, 2 titles with Ajax, progress in the Champions League to the semi-finals. Ruben Amorim comes with a similar kind of pedigree. I suppose the Portuguese league, you'd say, is a better league than the Dutch league, and Sporting hadn't won the title for 19 years before he won it, twice, and he's top of the table now at the moment, doing pretty well in the Champions League this season. So, you can't sort of say that because he's done that in Portugal that he's going to be a success in England, but it feels like maybe there's a few more ingredients there to make it happen this time.
Okay, in the meantime, Ruud van Nistelrooy is the interim manager for the next, 4 managers? For the next 4 matches. That's Leicester and the Carabao... Oh, no, we've had Leicester. Van Nistelrooy is the manager for the next 3 matches, so that'll be Chelsea in the Premier League this weekend, then PAOK in the Europa League, and then Leicester, who they faced midweek, of course, this time in the Premier League. The Leicester game on Wednesday sending out a bit of a message in his first game, much as Ten Hag's 7-0 against Barnsley did, of course.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, United are the team for the Carabao Cup this season. Beware them, in the next round. It was a weakened Leicester side, right? And it was a kind of one of those games where I guess the shackles are off a little bit. You've got a bit more license to try things, and the ball was going in the back of the net for United. Incredible goal from Casemiro to start things off. Bit of fortune with some of the other ones, even a bit of officiating look, I suppose you might call it, with a potential offside that Steve Cooper certainly thought it was. And I'm just thinking Erik Ten Hag is sat at home after that VAR call at London Stadium and the missed chances there and in different games, thinking, where was this when I was manager? There was an interesting sort of synergy between Casemiro and Van Nistelrooy. Casemiro, I think, had kind of had a bit of issues with how Ten Hag managed, and there was a couple of occasions when Casemiro was looking across to Van Nistelrooy and kind of giving a smile and a fist bump. So maybe Van Nistelrooy's changed things a little bit. It was very much the similar kind of team that Ten Hag would have fielded, same kind of formation, but clearly they got the goals and the result.
Excellent. As Duncan Alexander was tweeting, you have to hope that Erik Ten Hag doesn't have goal alerts set up on his phone. Adrian.
Laurie, in terms of Amorim, it seemed to be sorted out quite quickly. When United were scouring the coaches of the world in the summer, was Amorim someone that they spoke to? Do you know that? And if not, which one of the new management structure has identified him as the guy?
Yeah, he was somebody that they had a look at in the summer. I do believe there were talks, but it didn't make sense for each party at that moment. So in terms of, I think there was a higher release clause, and also, United weren't absolutely confident that he was the guy for them at that moment. I suppose you could question that, and what's changed dramatically now to affect that. I think he is. I think it does cost a little bit less to get him, and also Sporting have started this season on fire. So I suppose any doubts that you might have had, it feels like, okay, no, this guy can really do something at United. And Omar Barada, I'm told, is a big fan of his, but I think it has been a collective decision. Dan Ashworth, Dave Brailsford, Jim Ratcliffe. You can't discount his involvement in it all. Nothing really happens without his say so at United, albeit he will take recommendations from the people that he's employed on a football basis. But yeah, I think Barada seems to be the guy that. It's he's the chief executive, but he's got a football leaning approach to that job, and he's certainly been involved in the discussions with Sporting, and so has Dan Ashworth.
Magnificent. Thank you ever so much, Laurie, for being with us this morning, and no doubt further updates to come soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, Laurie. Have a great one.
Thanks for having me.
There you go. Let's park that, Laurie. Laurie Whitwell. Oh, Duncan, you tweeted out the Premier League goal difference in the Ten Hag era. So this is cumulative matches for Erik's time in charge. Is it a stark difference between Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Man United?
Yeah, City and Arsenal are in three figures. United ended on plus 11. It's
Plus
so
11, it's a
annoying
positive.
It wasn't plus 10.
It's a positive.
Come on. Plus 11.
How long did they have a negative goal difference for last season?
Quite a lot of the season.
Yeah.
They finished it, right?
-1.
Yeah. Well, the numbers, Man City goal difference of plus 134 goals, Arsenal plus 114, Liverpool plus 85, Man United plus 11. As we know, they struggled to score goals.
Well, the game on Sunday, Chelsea are the second most clinical team in the Premier League this year, overperforming their XG. Manchester United are the second least clinical and are the biggest underperformers on XG. So it is, I think we saw a glimpse of that on Wednesday.
But Ruud's only just taken over. How would he? Did he just tell the players, go out there and enjoy yourselves? Or what, Adrian?
He probably did. Yeah.
And would a player go, oh, fine, I will then?
Well, you just had to look, as Laurie said, you just had to look at Casemiro. He was running around like a young child let out of a house for
like
21
a puppy
minutes.
that had grown up.
There's a lot. There's a bit of beef that sometimes happens between a manager and player. There are issues. There are little nagging things that might be getting on your nerves about a manager. And when that changes and they go, it is like a fresh start. You're freed again to sort of, I suppose, be yourself and do what you want to do. Because Ruud van Nistelrooy, they know he's not going to be the next manager, don't they? So, in all likelihood. So they kind of could just go out there and have a bit of fun, and it looked like they did.
It was against a Leicester team that had made 9 changes from their last Premier League match. This Chelsea team, how do you fancy their prospects at Old Trafford?
Better, I think, but then Chelsea had some weird games, and last season especially against big teams that just had a lot of goals in them. That are quite emotionally draining to watch. I found by the end of it, where you get to the end of the game, and you go, I'm absolutely exhausted. So yeah, United's finishing's been like really quite abjectly poor, I think, in a way that is partially not attributable to Ten Hag. When you go, obviously he's not the one on the pitch that's missing chances, but it's not really come up with any sort of balance in this forward line. I know they've had injuries up top as well. You kind of got the dichotomy of how and where and when do you use Rashford and when don't you. And Garnacho too, and he's had done some weird subs where he said we need to get minutes in and etc. So I wonder if Ruud just spent the whole of training just sort of go around and just pinging in goals in small-sided games or something, and be like, just do more of that. Because even he sort of kind of half celebrated and half laughed, I think, when the Casemiro goal went in. As in being like, well, just surely why didn't Ten Hag think of that? Just start scoring goals from 30 yards.
And the irony being that obviously Van Nistelrooy, of his 95 Premier League goals, United, only one came from outside the box. 6 days after Lenny Yoro was born, for any Birth fans out there. But I just think anyone who tracks their sleep scores on various apps will know that if you've had a rough night, if you've been on the beers of Adrian Clarke, for instance, you kind of almost look forward to the next day when you know you're going to get a nice early night and you know the score's going to be high bounce back. It feels a bit like that with United and managers. Because they take longer than other clubs to get rid of managers, I feel. They let things drift a bit longer because of, we used to have Alex Ferguson and all that. It feels like when the managers do finally go, the players are just like, right, this is fun.
Do you track your sleep scores?
I do, yeah.
And how does that help you?
Not really.
What's your sleep score today?
Yeah.
Today, I think it's around 67%. Yeah.
67%.
And how does
I was
that
watching
how does that tell you how you think your sleep was?
Well, I was working till very late last night.
Right.
Because
What is the percentage based on? Your performance in sleeping, or
it's based on length. It's based on quality, how long you were in deep sleep, REM sleep, all that stuff. It's quite
but measured based on heart rate variability, right? Skin temperature, wearable. Well, it's not. He's not plugged in with not on the
how does 67% measure up to your ex sleep?
I'm hoping for in the 80s, to be honest.
Okay.
There was also there's a great piece from
like
Adam
Manchester
Kraft.
United.
Your XZs.
I dream of the 90s.
Your XZs. That's what I'm going.
There's a
XZs.
There's a great piece about Adam Kraft a few years ago that I came across the other day on sleep in football and like just how seriously it's taken, and clubs like building I can't even think of the word, beds and stuff at training grounds.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite a fascinating, like, as much as we jest. It's like
it's
actually a really big deal.
Dave Brailsford, who's now at Manchester United, famously when he started Team Sky, they used to bring their own mattresses to races.
Pillows, right?
They went to the mattresses.
Yeah, so
Haaland takes his sleep very seriously.
Does he?
He has the window the blinds that open automatically when the sun
and
comes.
the Champions League alarm clock.
and James Maddison carries a pillow around with him. So
when are you in the red zone on sleep? Is it 50% or below?
Well, this is more recovery score, but it's anything under 33 is red. 33 to 67 is yellow, and then anything above is green. Anyway, it was an analogy about Manchester United. So,
they are very much the sleeping giants of the English game. Will they continue?
Wake up?
Will they wake up? Yeah. Will they sleepwalk through this
nightmares.
encounter?
Can I talk about Chelsea?
Will it be another nightmare at the Theatre of Dreams?
We'll just move on.
Yeah.
Can I just talk about Chelsea briefly? Getting back to the football. You will have noticed, but they used Palmer, didn't they, in a different position at the weekend, Chelsea?
Oh, yeah. What was that?
So basically, you moved from right of centre to very much left of centre, much closer to Pedro Neto, who came in for Jadon Sancho. And they had Reece James, weirdly, at left back. So it was a whole new left-hand side, and it worked amazingly because Palmer was brilliant. He released Neto with that pass of the season, etc. And I just think that was really clever of Maresca, because Jadon Sancho can't play in this game at Old Trafford because it's his parent club. So I think he's had a little run at it. I'm going to have a look at Palmer with Neto. Can they work two lefties together on that side? And I'll tell you what, they were brilliant in that game. So look out for that combo maybe going again.
Bournemouth facing Man City Saturday at 3 o'clock. And Liam, you are going along to this game, potentially to see history being made if the Cherries could follow up their recent good form, taking 4 points from games against Arsenal and Villa in the last fortnight, with the biggest one of all against the champions. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they beat Arsenal, didn't they? So a couple of weeks ago. So I think we're all, just sort of hoping for a bit of a repeat in that sense of being competitive. I mean, even under Gary O'Neill previously, they had some good wins against big teams at home, especially. I think last season as well, Duncan didn't see Tharme wrong with the actual numbers and facts of the situation, but I think they had a good win at Spurs, I remember last season. A team that can press really nicely as well, one of the best pressing teams in the league last season. Took a bit of time to adjust in possession. But
they have the most shots following high turnovers this season, which is a pressing stat. We were talking before about the vulnerability of Man City that Spurs highlighted again midweek.
Didn't they? They won the ball pretty high up in the game against City quite on numerous occasions.
Right. So how much does Bournemouth's skill set match up with the perceived weaknesses in Pep's side?
It's hard because I think it's the natural way that teams tend to beat a City team now is sitting deep, hitting them on the break, sort of trying to score early, but that's also really hard to sustain, and I think you need as much to go right on your end as much we're talking about Spurs sort of winning as well. City had some really good chances sort of late on. There's a great, was it Bassoum had a clearance off the line from a, how he's got across to cover that, no idea. So you think there's as pleased as Postecoglou would be with that result, I think there's parts of the performance where you give City enough chances, they're going to score. So I think it'll make for a much more exciting game, because it won't just be the kind of training exercise you see like the Wolves game was, of sort of sit in, hit them on the break, which I think probably Guardiola prefers playing a lot more as well. It's always funny whenever they play Brentford, and you see him in the press conference before or after, he's so chronically fed up of playing against Thomas Frank, because he just knows he's getting the nastiest sort of 5-4-1 or 5-3-2 low block, and you're just like, I'm so fed up, there's just no space to play, what am I meant to do? So I'm hoping this will be really good of two front-footed teams. And obviously City with a bit of a sort of early goals weakness as well.
And a bit of an injury crisis. So how many players is it that Pep's saying he's down to?
Well, he says he's got 13 players.
13 players?
I mean...
That's a fib, isn't it? Because you got a lot more than that.
They've got an academy, I'm hearing. But I mean, it is a bit of a misnomer. People go, "Oh, City are so strong they could name 2 teams." They don't. They can't. They just have about 18 brilliant players. So when they do pick up injuries, which they don't that often, this is the worst injury crisis of his time at the club.
Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. And
so who's out? Kevin De Bruyne, Ballon d'Or Rodri,
Kyle Walker,
Grealish, Savinho, you assume now as well after.
Right.
They say that there's doubts over Akanji and Gvardiol as well after.
Right.
After
DS went off at half time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are, bare bones. Now I know people will go, "Oh well, it's not bare bones," but it's probably the worst time to be going to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're going there for, I don't know, Christmas.
Bank holiday Monday, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Do you know, you have to go back to February 1999 in what we now term League One, the third division essentially, for the last time the Cherries didn't lose against Manchester City. They were playing at Dean Court back in those days.
Same place, to be fair.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, although in those days it would have been rotated 90 degrees in the other direction.
Okay.
Geography fans will be all over that.
A point behind them are Liverpool, who'll be facing, as we mentioned, Brighton again. What do you think? Will Fabian Hutzler take stock from the experience of Wednesday night and spring a surprise at Anfield? And will it involve the incredibly on-fire Danny Welbeck?
Yeah, well, he's trying to score in 4 Premier League games for the first time in his career.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And he'll be boosted / dismayed by the news this week from the Athletics' big inside Ten Hag's exit read that one of Ten Hag's plots for last summer was to get Welbeck back.
Wow.
Which I don't think would have been a bad shout.
I can see that with Ten Hag shakily trying to put his round eyeglasses back on and push back a mop of greasy hair while a phalanx of generals stand around him looking grim and say, "Get me Danny Welbeck."
Yeah.
Well, you just, but United scored 8 this season, and Danny Welbeck's got 6, so they're kind of on, kind of going toe for toe a bit at the moment. He scored a really good goal actually at Anfield last season.
Did he?
Brighton did go on to lose that game, but a really nice sort of volley on the turn. He's got quite a good sort of goals library if you look at it. Some nice off the shoulder runs, good finishes on the angle. He's a powerful guy. He can hit a ball pretty well.
And I do love players who have like different trajectories in their career. Obviously broke through and was a really promising striker. Then his mid-career was injury hit and didn't really work at Arsenal. But then now has just become like a really inspiring sort of veteran, and he's a sort of a captain on the pitch in terms of sort of inspiring players. And
technical leader, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just he's really good, and everyone else should play like he does.
But he's shouting at players, which obviously he never did. He's older than. Is he older than Hutzler?
You might be, I think so. Yeah.
Eyes on the pitch.
There you go. Brighton away at Anfield. What a game that could turn out to be. Not available for the casual viewer to tune into in the UK at least. However, if you fancy some early action on Saturday, then it's Newcastle Arsenal 12:30. Arsenal third, as we mentioned, 5 points now behind City. The kind of tagline on this one, Adrian, is this the weekend when they drop out of the title race for good?
No.
Come on.
I've just answered it.
No? They're going to win?
I think they've got a very good chance of winning the game. If it's a draw, they don't drop out of the title race. It's definitely a game they've got to target winning. But there's so long to go. We've got 3 quarters of the season to go.
Duncan was just explaining that it's all over by the 10th week.
Well, look, Arsenal have led the way in the last 2 seasons. How did that work out?
Yeah,
so
right back at you, Duncan.
No, they didn't win the league. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So look, coming from behind, off the shoulder of City or Liverpool might just suit Arsenal this season. I think they've got a good chance. Obviously, it depends on who comes back from injury. It'd be nice if Gabriel Magalhaes is available, and if he is, Arsenal might just have their first choice back 4 already, which seemed a mile
Because
off
Saliba's
last
back
weekend.
from suspension.
Saliba played against Preston and he looked good, so that's nice.
so.
You've got the strong midfield axis of Rice and Marino.
Who I thought both had their best games of the season last weekend.
They were terrific, weren't they? Against Liverpool?
Rice has been a bit off it this season, but his long-range passing was back and he's kind of like driving forward. And Marino actually looked like a decent player.
He's good. On that game, by the way, Arsenal ran almost 6.5k further than Liverpool.
Did they?
Not that that really makes any great difference in the grand scheme of things, but I think it just shows
over
you.
10 people, 10 outfielders, 600 metres.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's significant in a game. You don't often get that much disparity.
Come, sir.
No, you're not bothered, are you? But what it
Did they
tells you
want
is
it more? Is that what you're saying?
no. What it tells you is that Arsenal
Ran more.
We're out of position
They
more
put it
often.
in. Yeah, Liverpool are quite efficient.
Probably.
Liverpool are quite efficient.
Yeah.
Arsenal are a very high intensity team, and maybe that's why they've picked up a few more injuries.
Should you run more against Liverpool, who are so good with their speed out wide, and if you've got a Salah, a Diaz, should you run less? Not stand still, but obviously it would be more compact.
I don't know.
We should,
That's really
St
confusing.
James's
That
Park,
question.
Yeah.
obviously one of the few Premier League grounds with a slope. Surely you'll be running more when you're attacking the Gallagher end because it's slightly downhill.
How big is the slope at St
A
James'
couple of
Park?
metres.
Is it?
Is it? Is it really?
I've played it, but I can't remember.
Which
it being
way?
sloped.
I've not played there.
So we're saying left to right or
So
side to
as
side?
the TV camera looks from left to right, towards the Gallagher end, yeah.
So you're going uphill when you attack the Gallagher end?
No, you're going downhill when you're attacking.
Oh, so uphill
Right.
attacking the away end.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's good because the end's so high up. At least
I've always
it's,
maintained,
yeah.
and this is on the back of playing no professional football or indeed football ever, that it is harder to play downhill than it is uphill.
like that cheese rolling
Yeah.
chase
Yeah.
thing. in
Well, yeah,
Worcestershire.
obviously that's harder uphill than downhill.
Well, I don't know. They get a lot of broken ankles.
Well, you
don't
do.
Do they?
You do notoriously run disproportionately.
Is this the cheese
Slower.
or the football?
Well, both.
Both, right.
Going downhill
Yeah.
doesn't speed you up as much as going uphill slows you down. because
Right.
of
No,
braking
but it's just
forces
more
and
what
stuff.
happens to the ball.
Well, yeah, the ball's just going to go.
Yeah, it's just going to go.
It's easier playing uphill.
Gathers no moss.
It's slightly easier playing uphill.
Okay. Well,
Anyway,
that's something to bear in mind when you're watching.
On Arsenal, very quickly,
Yeah.
what I really like at the moment about the team is the way they've found a new way without Ødegaard. So that was the big challenge, wasn't it? No Ødegaard, what are Arsenal going to do? Now, they could have just played Ethan Nwaneri and played the same system and probably been just fine, actually, looking at how good he's been. But they've found a different thing. And the reason that it's worked is that they've got Rice and Marino now, or Rice and Partey. They've got two really big, strong midfielders that can carry it and that carry the midfield too. And then they've got two guys up front in Havertz and Trossard that graft. They are proper grafters in terms of how far they run, how they work without the ball, as well as what they do with the ball. So I think 4-4-2 which is what Arsenal are playing at the moment, only really works at that level if you've got that sturdy platform in the middle and guys that defend from the front really well, and two brilliant wingers, of course.
Do they have anyone in the team who can judge whether a ball has gone out of play? Because that was quite a big storyline in this fixture last season.
Well, it was, and of course with Villa, there was the goal disallowed, wasn't there, this week?
What was the complaint with that?
So that was the
Villa
one that
goal.
went
It
to
was three
VAR
VAR checks, wasn't
Right.
it? But it was the first the ball had
The
it gone
ball,
out of
it
play.
looked like it gone out, and also Ollie Watkins pauses for half a second and looks at the linesman quite clearly, being like,
Oh,
I
no,
think this
sorry.
has gone out of play. Yeah, and then
No,
keeps
but look, I've seen the steals and they look identical in terms of like where the ball, the shadow of the ball, the curve of the ball. It looks exactly where it was for Arsenal's one last year. Yet you get different outcomes where one's allowed at Newcastle, and one's not allowed at Villa. But it's a year ago. But what there is in this fixture is a little bit of beef, definitely. I've been at a few of these games, and they don't like each other. I don't think the coaching staffs get on particularly well. There's a lot of housery goes on pitch side.
Really?
Yeah, lots. Arsenal are still a bit irked at Newcastle with the dark arts a couple of years ago, and then obviously Arteta just blew his top after the game last season. And look, at that moment, I kind of I backed him because I felt that that sort of disappointment, of that frustration. And you've seen in the past where managers have really laid it on thick, and then they get lots of good decisions come their way because you're in the mindset of referees. I do think that with Arsenal it's worked the opposite way.
The opposite way. I see. What about Newcastle? Winless in 5 in the league. They did beat Chelsea, as we mentioned, midweek. Chelsea, who had beaten them last weekend in such impressive fashion. What's the issue there, Newcastle?
Just don't score enough. They've got the set after Manchester United, the second biggest underperformance on XG going forward this season. So, for them, you'd hope that win in midweek with a couple of gift-wrapped goals gets them back on track.
That first pass is awful for the first goal. And then I think it was Badisha, they played it and then really underhits the pass, and then the turnover happens, he's at scores, and then has the cheek to basically kick off and be like, what were you doing? And he can't
play out from the back, Badisha.
You should just put your hands up and say, look, I got that one wrong.
He does it so many times. I've said that with him.
I'm sure Liam's the same. I spend much of my time with the general public convincing people that playing out from the back is a constructive and a sensible thing to do, and then he goes and does that and undoes a lot of good work.
Yeah, it does.
A million dads scream.
We are the real victims in this situation.
I think the Newcastle back four is not good at the moment. I don't think they're playing anywhere near as well as they should. The structure of the team's not quite right. If you looked at that Chelsea game, you saw Fabian Schär had a bit of a disaster class. He kept getting drawn into midfield, leaving gaps. And then for the goal, he did the exact opposite and backed off Palmer because he was scared of getting a second yellow card. It was quite poor from him. And I think the two fullbacks get at-able from Arsenal. Martinelli's in good form. Saka's in really good form. So if Arsenal are going to win it, I think it's going to be down the sides.
And you think they will win it?
Down the slopes, down the sides.
Nice. All right. We'll catch up on some more of the treats that await us this weekend next. Listener, if you're following Aberdeen's extraordinary exploits this season in the SPFL, we were hearing about them again on last Sunday's show from JJ Bull, then you probably know that midweek they took on Rangers and beat them 2-1 to stay joint top of the Scottish Premiership. Could they? Will they? They're 9 points clear of Rangers now, but behind Celtic on goal difference. And that was exciting. Oh, this weekend, Duncan, Wickham in the FA Cup first round.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
York City.
York City of the National League.
The Danelaw advocates. There's some good ties in the first round.
Are there?
Yeah. Milton Keynes against Wimbledon.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Some beef. They talk about beef. There's some, concrete cows, but actual beef. So,
Actual beef. Nicely done.
It's the Nathan Jones derby.
Is it?
Yeah,
Luton?
Southend against Charlton, because I played with Nathan at Southend.
Did you? Okay.
He played there for years, actually, as a left back. And he goes back to Roots Hall with Charlton. So that'd be a good tie.
There's a few little local ones as well. Kettering, non-league Kettering, playing Northampton. So excited about that. And is Bristol Rovers against Weston-super-Mare.
Oh,
nice.
The
what's
trip
the distance?
hop Classico, as you might
Nice.
call it.
Yeah. Is Weston-super-Mare, is that kind of essentially part of the conurbation then?
It's not far, is it?
Is it not?
It's not far.
Okay.
Far. Yeah.
I'm going to have a look.
It's quite a distance between Spurs and Aston Villa, but they'll be facing each other this weekend in the Premier League. In the table, by the way, Spurs and Villa separated by a whopping 5 points. Villa currently fourth, Spurs down in 8th place. They did get the win against Man City this weekend. They did get a goal, this midweek. They did get a goal from Timo Werner. They did also lose Mickey van der Ven to a hamstring injury. Aye. And Villa are nursing their wounds after that defeat to Palace. What do you make of this game, Liam?
40 miles.
Thank you so much. 40 miles. What do you make of
Through Portishead.
What do you make of this game?
I mean, it's a bit of a high line-off, isn't it? So you'd like to hope there's some sort of action at either end of the pitch. Spurs have interested me this season. I saw it a bit more watching the West Ham win recently, where they're really, really good on the break. I know Adrian was speaking about that at the start. In terms of, I think, at least fast break goals, they were and probably still are the top team in the league. It makes perfect sense. They've got all the ingredients, if you like, to play that, especially with Solanke now. I think can be a sort of real target man to have sort of midfielders running off. They've got real sort of pure pace out wide. I think Kulusevski is just more refined number 8 role is really good. You've then got that technician that can get it, sort of play on the half turn, drive forward and take up ground. So whether they lean into that against a Villa team that might be a bit more susceptible to sort of counter attacks. But likewise, Villa can be equally as good, sort of going the other way. So no, this should be really good.
Got a good record, haven't they, against Spurs? Against Spurs at Tottenham, and they've won the last two. In this sort of high-line derby, as it's been dubbed. I do think Van der Ven's absence is pretty big. I know Dragusin's a good player, but yeah, Van der Ven is the most important.
Just when Van der Ven was out, they drag us in.
That's true. Kind of. So no, it's going to be an interesting game. I think Villa are slightly ahead of Tottenham in terms of what they've got as a team. Tielemans is having a terrific season. I think that should be said, as is Morgan Rogers.
I love Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
Why do you love Morgan Rogers? Why do you love Morgan Rogers?
He's got a balance of being powerful and really, really good technically, and often you sort of get one or the other. You get almost like the Phil Foden type who is really good technically, but you think might get munched by Declan Rice, whereas Rogers, like the way he'll just turn, sort of take contact and keep on going, is excellent.
I've said this before, he is quite Paul Gascoigne-esque.
Yeah.
He is like a Paul Gascoigne regen. So he'll be back at Spurs. So.
There you go. That's Spurs at home to Villa Sunday at 2:00. Spurs, as mentioned, are 8th. Just behind them in 9th and 10th are Brentford and Fulham, who'll be meeting at the Cottage in a West London derby on Monday night. But the team above Tottenham in 7th place are Nottingham Forest, and they on Saturday take on West Ham. What do you think? Another Chris Wood masterclass?
Yeah, well, Prowse derby. Chris Wood is the story at the moment, isn't he? I've written a piece on him this week.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's out yet for the Premier League, but check it out. No team is more reliant on one player to score their goals than Forest. I think he scored 64% of their goals.
64%.
It's 7 of 11. In simpler terms.
Right.
They do need more from other people.
Can buy Wood in a 7-11.
Yeah, this is true. No, he's been terrific. I think he's just perfectly suited to this sort of team. Look at his career as a whole. He's always been better in sort of deep lying teams that sort of sit back behind the ball and break quickly. He likes playing in teams with wingers. Obviously, Forest have got that. He had that at Burnley and Leeds. And yeah, he's just tailor made for it. I think he's deceptive because it's not just about headers. He's only 2 of his 7 are headers. He's a really powerful runner.
He's like, take this with a pinch of salt, but he's like Brazilian Ronaldo. Sort of. It's the Kiwi Ronaldo original. Since Christmas
In what
Day,
way?
He's powerful. He breaks through. He can finish with either foot.
He hasn't got the tricks though, has he? The flicks and the tricks.
I wouldn't rule it out. Honestly, I think Chris Wood has got levels to his game that we've not even seen yet. I think we talked earlier about Welbeck having a late career revival. I think Chris Wood is. I'm worried about how good he can get.
Wow,
He's 32.
Yeah,
you think he'll be better at 33 or 34?
Yeah. 17 goals since Christmas Day in the Premier League.
Only one player has more in open play since Nuno. So basically, part of this piece was how he's fared under different managers.
Right.
And under Nuno, he is unbelievably better than he's been under any other manager. So since Nuno came in...
Why is that, Adrian?
Because of the style of play that he's implemented, I think, since he came in, which was December 2023... Wood has scored 17 goals in open play,
right? And
only one player has scored more, and I think we all know who that player is. But he's only got.
Confirm. Is it Erling Haaland?
It is Erling Haaland.
All right,
but he's only got one more in open play during that time than Chris Wood, which is crazy.
Did he cost more than Chris Wood?
I think he might have done.
Yeah, I've never seen a player who, like, if you're 15 now. In 20 years' time, people are going to be remembering Chris Wood so hard. They're going to be like, oh, I remember that guy, Chris Wood. He was.
It just so happens that his favourite opponent in the Premier League, with 7 goals to his name against them so far, is West Ham.
Is it?
West Ham.
Like lots of players score a lot of goals against West Ham, which might be a reflection on West Ham rather than the players themselves.
True.
I fancy Forest in the game, though. Two pretty cautious teams.
Right.
I don't think this will be a high-scoring game.
They could be top 4, Forest. Top 4 come Saturday.
Great. Yeah.
A rare example of Wood outwitting Hammers? I believe so.
Let's talk about the key clashes coming up, just to finish off at the other end of the table.
Relegation weekend.
Relegation weekend, you're dubbing it.
Is it 6-pointer territory at this stage?
Yeah.
Especially the table's not
points.
They are,
whenever they come. Much like crumpets. No.
Crumpets and points.
Sorry, yeah. Whenever they come. The situation at the bottom, assuming Man United in 14th place are safe, then it's really the 16th below them that are most concerned. You've got Leicester, who are in 14th spot. Sorry, Leicester, who are in 15th spot on 9 points. Everton and Palace. Sorry, you got Leicester in 15th place on 9 points. Everton sharing 9 points with them. Then you got Palace, who are one outside the bottom three on 6 points. Ipswich on 4, Wolves on 2, and Southampton on 1. This weekend, Southampton host Everton. Philosophical, diametrically opposed kind of position.
Quite enjoy that. Stars make fights. So yeah.
Well, we saw what Deitch got out of Everton when he went to De Zerbi's Brighton a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
Was it
He did lose quite heavily in a couple of games as well. So it was
horses for courses, but it can.
There was a 5-1 hammering. Yes.
Yeah.
It's 5 games unbeaten currently for Sean Dyche's Toffees. They've never actually made 6 without defeat under him. Saints, by the way, if they lose, they will equal the worst start in Premier League history.
Saints. This is a game the Saints must win. Like you look at the fixtures. Everton aren't a terrific travelling team, are they? I know that they've been harder to beat of late, but this is a winnable fixture for Southampton. They were poor, Everton, I thought, against Fulham. Sort of scrambled a draw.
And there's doubts over Dwight McNeil's fitness.
And he's been brilliant, hasn't he? That's been a really clever move actually from Deitch to put him in as a number 10 and move Njai over to the left. That's worked really well, but defensively not great. Pickford, I don't think he's in very good form at all. So yeah, it's an opportunity I think for Southampton.
Duncan, your stat earlier on from Mark Carey about the amount of changes, or the minimal changes that you see after, say, the 10th round of the season, is that particularly applicable down the bottom end of the table?
Yeah. If we look last season, the bottom 3 were the bottom 3, so not ideal for Ipswich, Wolves and Southampton, but it was the same at the top as well. Tottenham were top, did fade, but the eventual top 4 were 2nd to 5th, so there isn't much movement after this stage. So yeah, to Adrian's point, it is a very big weekend. I think Southampton will win this.
If they do, they'll bring Everton right back into the mix, depending, of course, on what happens in the other games. But currently there are 5 points between the Toffees and the Saints. Wolves, who are just a point above Saints, will be hosting Crystal Palace, who themselves are only a couple of points outside the bottom 3.
Yeah, just on Everton, I was looking into this and their record, because I thought this is the kind of game that actually Everton don't lose. Like, Everton have a very dreadful record against decent teams, but against sides at the bottom end of the table, they've been good. Since the start of last season, Everton's record against the bottom 5 is 1-9, drawn 2, lost 1.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So so we're saying Saints have got a great chance, which they have, but actually this is the kind of game Everton tend to get their points in.
It makes sense. They've normally got quite a good solid defensive base, right? They can be physical in both boxes, good at set pieces at both ends, all the areas where a team should normally sort of try and hurt them. Very prepared to, probably play a bit and dominate the ball, but can quite easily sort of sit in. So yeah, I think just quality-wise, I think it's better teams. Give a better team enough of the ball, enough chances they'll make something. Not quite the same against a relegation team.
Okay. The other 2 6-pointers, as mentioned, Wolves against Crystal Palace and Ipswich, Leicester. Those are 2 teams promoted automatically from the Championship last season, but Leicester having a much better time of it this time around. Ipswich, who had a rotten match last weekend, particularly Harry Clarke. Some good news for him. Do you remember he got sent off and an own goal
and a penalty conceded.
The own goal, at least, has been struck from his record.
The match they were pining for it, weren't they? They were visibly upset.
Yeah, I'm pleased because my dad's called Harry Clarke, and I didn't want the name.
Was it your dad?
Yeah.
No wonder they're struggling. And they've got Adrian Clarke's dad playing for them. Jeez.
Ipswich Leicester Saturday at 3 o'clock. And Wolves Palace is to be accompanied by the snack of your choice, tea time game. Wolves still winless, of course, and Palace who beat Spurs last Sunday and then did Villa midweek. So maybe a little bit of momentum there.
It is A-list Palace, though, isn't it? It's going to put a lot on, like Mateta, isn't it? On who else is there really to
well, he might drop Nketiah deeper again, which is
Nketiah in behind.
A curious development this season that keeps happening. So
yeah, I think it's an opportunity for Wolves with the injuries to Palace. It's a big opportunity for Wolves to get their first win as well. Maybe we'll see both of those two clubs. Get off and running.
That's what awaits on Premier League match day 10. After that, you've got Brentford and Fulham. That's Monday night at Fulham. Before that, Sunday, we'll be back with our Sunday night roundup, which I remind you, if you're really, really stuck for something to do at around 6:45 on Sunday, why not join us on YouTube? You can watch us recording the podcast. Duncan.
I was just going to point out that one of the most, for me, and it might just be for me, but one of the most exciting weekends of the season, because as teams reach 10 games played, you can read their win, draw, loss record as formations. So it's very rare to get a 4-4-2, but both Brighton and Forest are on 4-4-1 at the moment. So if Brighton and Forest lose, they'll both be on 4-4-2 after 10 games, which is just, for me,
I can't believe you didn't lead with that today.
Well, I thought it was, niche content.
Doesn't really work like the 6-2-2, does it? Or anything
all
like
right, Adrian, but there's, Chelsea could be on 5-3-2 after the. You get extra points if it matches the formation.
Matches the formation, right?
Yeah.
How many extra points?
One extra point. So it's a loophole that no one's ever noticed.
Games within games.
Yeah.
I like it. Very good. Many thanks, Duncan. Many thanks as well to Adrian and Liam. And to Laurie, who joined us earlier on, of course, to Rachel and producer Charlie in the booth. You, listener, hope you have a great weekend and that maybe we'll feature in it for you late on Sunday or early Monday when the podcast drops. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.